Hi everyone, Dominic here, and today I thought I'd make a video about the interview process at Oxford because it is currently the end of November. Oxford's currently sending out invitations to interviews. Interviews are starting this week and they're going on for the next 2 weeks. So I thought it would be a good idea to make a video with some last minute advice for any of you who have got interviews, or maybe you're just interested in seeing what the process is like. So first, a little bit about me. For those of you who have never watched my videos before, I am a second year Japanologist at Oxford. So the interview process does vary between Oxford and Cambridge. I know that Cambridge interviews tend to happen all on one day. Cambridge also send out their invitations a bit earlier, I think. Oxford send out theirs really late. I only found out about my interview right at the end of November, so around today's date or tomorrow, depending on when you're watching this. You'll usually find out about your interview a week to 2 weeks before you have to come to Oxford. And the college you've applied to, or the college that's interviewing you, they pay for you to stay in the college and have college food, so you don't need to worry about any of that stuff. The interviews will go on for a period of about 3 days, so you'll be required to stay in Oxford for about 2-3 nights. In some cases you might be required to stay another extra night, so maybe 4 nights, but in most cases you'll arrive the day before the interview starts. So in my case, I think the interview started around the 7th of December, so I arrived the day before in the evening, had dinner, and then the next morning is when your interviews start. So in terms of, I guess, what to do when you get to Oxford, first thing you'll do when you arrive at the college, you will be given your room key and you will be given a map of the college, and you will be told where the JCR is. There'll usually be a college rep who sort of guides you around, and so you go to your room, drop everything off, then you can go to the JCR. So the JCR is the junior common room, and this is where you will be spending most of your time, I guess, waiting, finding out where your interviews are, when your interview is. So this is, I guess, the main sort of area where everyone will gather. That's sort of the main hub, as you will. Now, the interview process in itself is probably going to be very daunting, especially if you've never done something like this before, which not many people have. But the important thing I would say for the interviews is to remain calm, do not start panicking. And I know it's easier said than done, but what really will help in this situation is, before the interviews, and to have answers for the questions why Oxford and why your course. Now, inevitably you are going to be asked these questions, and while your answer isn't going to make or break your application, it's a good idea to just know these questions so that if you go into the interview a bit flustered, you can ease yourself in by knowing the answers to those questions. Now, in terms of what interviewers ask, they're mainly looking to see how you think, and I think this is very important to sort of hammer home, because a lot of people go into the interviews thinking it's all about what you know, and it's not about what you know, it's how you deal with situations and problems which you don't know. So for example, in my faculty interview, we were given a made-up language, and we had about 10 minutes where we sat in the lobby and we had to decipher the language, write English translations, and then we went into the interview, and about half of it was spent talking about this made-up language. So in that sort of situation, what you want to make sure you do is walk the tutors through how you got to a certain answer. They don't just want to see what your answer is, they want to know why that's your answer. If you found patterns between different parts of the language and how you were able to use that to then come to your final conclusions. That is very important. Any question the interviewer asks you, try thinking out loud the process of how you get from A to B. Don't just give them the answer. They want to know how you got that answer. That is very important. Next is, don't be afraid to say, I don't know. Now, if you don't know the answer to a question, you can ask the interviewer to elaborate, tell you again what they mean, and they'll usually go and rephrase the question. They'll help you through it. Don't think that you have to know the answer to everything, because you really don't. Now, another main thing I'd say for the interviews, which may seem like common sense, is to make sure you read your personal statement, reread it, and you understand it well. Now, this is probably one of the easiest things you can prepare for, because it's something that you've written and it's something that you should know, and you will likely be asked about things that you've written. I mean, you could very well not be asked in your personal statement at all, and for my faculty interviews that was pretty much the case. I was asked about 2 questions, which were about the high school I was studying in Japan, and about a Japanese speech competition that I'd entered while I was still in high school. So those were the 2 sort of personal statement-y questions I was asked in my faculty interview. In my college interview, however, I was very much grilled on why I wanted to study Japanese, why I wanted to study at Oxford, why I didn't want to study in Japan. I was asked very specific questions about my personal statements. I was also asked broader questions such as, when doing a translation, is it better to translate the meaning or is it better to translate directly? So in that sort of situation, I guess there are many different angles you can approach that question from. And so if you can talk about all the different, I guess, the advantages and disadvantages to both, and then come to a sort of conclusion, I guess that's probably the way they would like you to approach that question. Don't just give them an answer and then don't back up your points at all. What will happen a lot of the time is you'll say something and then it will be a little like argument style discussion. Well, they'll sort of probe you to keep on like going. If you feel that they're just disagreeing with you the whole time, do not fret. That's actually, I don't want to say it's a good thing, but it is a good thing because it means you're being pushed. They want to see, you know, you're outside of your comfort zone. How far can they push you and how well can you fight back and respond to those sort of situations. Now, in terms of how many tutors, I guess, going to be asking you questions, it really depends. It could be between 2 or 3, maybe 4. In my first interview, I was interviewed by 2 people. I was interviewed by one of the tutors, one of the Japanese tutors, and I was interviewed by a Japanese teacher. So the Japanese teacher asked me questions in Japanese. About half of that interview was in Japanese. And my second interview, there were, I think, about 3 people. The main tutor, then there was also, I think, a 4th year student who was mainly just writing down things. They were asking me questions as well. And then another Japanese teacher who asked me questions in Japanese. So do not be surprised if there's a person in the room who's writing down things on like a clipboard, because obviously the main person interviewing you, they're not going to be able to take in everything you're saying and write it all down at the same time. But at the same time, that person writing things can easily interject and ask you something. So if they start talking to you, do not be completely surprised, because that is likely to happen as well. But yeah, I guess the important thing for the interview is just to not worry too much. I know it's really hard not to worry, but honestly, they are not there to catch you out. They are just there to see how you think. They want to see how you deal with these unknown situations. The interview really is like, it's like a tutorial in the way that you are asked questions. They want to see your opinions on a certain subject. They want to see that you are the academically driven person that you painted yourself to be in your personal statement. They want to make sure that, you know, the person in your personal statement and the person in front of them are the same person, that you are serious about studying your subject. And if you can show them these things, then you won't run into any problems. But yeah, just getting an interview in the first place is a very big achievement. So if you are feeling a bit down, just remember that you were chosen over a whole group of other people. So do not get disheartened. But anyway, that is pretty much all for this video. To all of you who do have interviews, good luck. Give this video a thumbs up if it helped. And if you have any more questions, do let me know in the comments section below. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.